Lindsay Banks, Reiki and Alternative Healing to Relieve Stress. This is episode 93 on alternative health tools, and it's subtitled, How to Look After Your Mind and Body to Deal with Stressful Situations. And we have a little announcement for you. My name is John Beethan. I'm a co-host and also a producer for Alternative Health Tools podcast, and I'm across the pond here in the San Diego, USA area.
And I'm Lisa Victoria, and I'm across the other side of the pond in a little market town called Towcester, which is just outside London. And I'm the other co-host from across the pond.
Yeah, and Lisa has absolutely been fabulous coming on as the host, but now she's got to give it up as a co-host, which is fine. So the whole reason we're doing this actually is so that we can bring you more content. And Lisa's completely on her own. I'm setting her up basically so she can do interviews and share them with me, and I'm doing my interviews here. But, you know, I've got a situation where we actually have an episode coming up with somebody on tapping. So we're going to be using Zoom, and so we'll release a video on that, and Lisa will be a part of that as well. But we just want to get you guys updated on what's going on. Anything you want to say, Lisa?
Just that it's really exciting times, and, you know, the alternative health tools has evolved and grown over the years, hasn't it? And coming into this period now, you know, we're evolving and growing all the time and making it more accessible for people, obviously with the time difference. So being able to host on my own and you being able to host over there on your own, it just, like you said, makes it more accessible for us to interview people and get some more great content out to our listeners.
Very well said. All right, Lisa, I will see you across the pond.
Yeah, virtually. For now. I'm Lisa Victoria, and I'm your host for Alternative Health Tools. And today we're talking about keeping your energy high and cleansing your energy. It's March the 23rd, and we're in the midst of coronavirus and a lot of people out there self-isolating. So today we are joined by our wonderful guest, Lindsay Banks, who's a medium, a psychic medium and spiritual entrepreneur. And she's going to share with us today some top tips on how to keep your energy high during these challenging times, and also how to cleanse your energy with a lot of negativity going around. And these top tips are going to be awesome to be used just in general, but specifically at this time. I think it's going to be a great help to a lot of our listeners. So welcome, Lindsay. It's great to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me, Lisa.
Awesome. So, Lindsay, do you want to just give a bit of a background as to your journey and how you became a spiritual entrepreneur, and, you know, what kind of got you here today?
Yeah, so my spiritual journey, if you like, started back in 2002 when I was studying international business in Hong Kong. And a friend of mine at the time had gone off on this retreat, and he came back saying how he'd been laughing and how he'd been crying. And at the time, I didn't understand why you would choose to cry. But he said he'd been on this Reiki retreat. And I just remember him placing his hands on my back and feeling this intense heat. And I was like, wow, what's that? And he said, oh, it's Reiki. And up until then, I'd sort of had an interest in ghosts and spirits and the afterlife, but never really contemplated anything like any alternative therapies or thought about energy healing or anything. And then I returned to university, I graduated, and I got a job in the retail sector. And it was stressful. It was the first time in my life I'd really experienced stress. Being sort of like a middle manager, I had staff underneath me who were wanting my attention and my time. I had managers above me who were demanding of my time and attention. And then there's the customers. And I just found myself literally working like 60 hours a week. I wasn't really sort of happy, and I was really stressed. I was a very angry person at the time. And then I went through a breakup with a boyfriend. I didn't really know what I was doing in my life, and I just felt that I needed something. And then I remembered Reiki. So I went along, I found a lady nearby and went for a Reiki session. And to be honest, when I left, I thought, what a waste of money, because I didn't feel anything. And it was only later, sort of a couple of weeks later, looking back, I thought, you know what, actually, I do feel a bit calmer. I feel lighter in myself. So she then invited me to come and learn my Reiki level 1. And I was intrigued and interested to find out more about this energy that she kept talking about. And she'd mentioned to me as well, you know, about fairies and angels. And I thought, this lady's crazy. Little was I to know that sort of 20 years later, I'd be the crazy lady, you know, talking about angels and fairies and everything else. But yeah, so I went along and I started learning more about myself as an energy being as well as the physical being. And one of the tools that I want to share later, I learned in my Reiki level 1, and it stood me in such good stead for the last sort of 12 years, which is grounding and protecting your energies. So that's something we can talk about later. But I found that as I opened myself up to these energies, I just found that I was starting to sort of be able to communicate with spirits and be able to communicate with my spirit guides. And it just opened up this whole world of possibilities that I wasn't even aware of previously. And like, I compare my story to that of the tortoise and the hare, where I'm the tortoise and I've learned everything so slowly. It's like the universe like throws something in and says, right, here, you need to learn this now. And then I have the experience, and then I come out the other side and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I've been building up my spiritual toolbox over quite a long time.
And it sounds like you've got such an array of tools in your toolbox. So from Reiki, what other things do you do for your clients now?
So I was introduced to crystals not long after I'd gone to learn Reiki. And I remember picking up my first crystal from this fair. And the people selling them were called he high, she low, because he was 7 foot and she was 5'2".
I love that.
I know. I was just like, it's awesome. But I had no idea about crystals, but I just picked up this. It looked like a rough rock, which was like a pink color. And I just thought, that's the crystal that I need. So I remember holding it, and for some reason I would sleep with it and holding it. And to me, it felt like I was receiving a gentle hug for the soul. So it became a bit of an obsession. So I've currently got about 350 crystals in the house now. But as I've been using them and tuning in and just experiencing the different energies around the crystals, they have now become part of my work. And it's interesting because initially I thought I can only do this in person. But I started experimenting, because when you learn Reiki, one of the things you learn is about distance healing. And at the time I thought, what a load of rubbish. How does that work? But it was only sort of earlier last year, I watched a program about science and energy and vibration, and something just clicked. And I thought, it's about setting intentions and it's about tuning in. So I asked for a few guinea pigs, and one lady, I tuned into the energy of our chakras. So chakras, for those who don't know, are like major spinning energy centers throughout your body. And one of our solar plexus chakra, which is the main power house, just felt really funny. And I asked upstairs, or the universe or source, whatever you want to call it, the reasons why our chakra was blocked. And I just got it to do with apples. So I fed it back to her and I said, I'm suggesting this crystal for your solar plexus. And the reason it's feeling out of sorts is to do with apples. Does that make sense? And she started laughing. She said, I made an apple juice this morning, Lindsay, with 7 apples, skin on. She said, I've never felt so bloated in my life. And I was like, oh my days. I was like, well, that's why. So yeah, so I think
I'm not even going to ask why 7 apples, but that's
So yeah, so I think just over time, just learning, so using the crystals and then learning more about vibration as well. So I often use sound healing as well in my sessions.
Everything you just said, you know, I love all of it. And I'm thinking some of our listeners may already be aware of some of those tools. They may have experienced them, but there might be some people out there who haven't. And going back to your comment about a gentle hug for the soul when you were holding your crystal, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, because I know that's got another meaning to you now. But in terms of a gentle hug for the soul right now, for anybody out there, what sorts of things can they be doing to help themselves, even though they might not have access to Reiki, or they might not have access to crystals, or they don't know where to start? What advice would you give them to start self-care?
So there's loads of free tools that you can use that are accessible to all of us, regardless of, like you said, whether you have access to Reiki or a healer or whatever else. So the first one, which I highly recommend, is about being mindful and using mindfulness. So you can buy like these really thick books about what it takes to be mindful, but mindfulness doesn't have to be that difficult. It's more about, in Reiki, we'll learn some precepts which are just for today. Do not worry. Just for today, I will be calm. So rather than thinking about the what ifs and, what happens if this happens next week, and trying to think too much into the future or thinking about the past, just keep reminding yourself, right, just for today, this is how I'm feeling, this is where I am, can really just help you to sort of focus and become more present.
Yeah.
Go on.
That's such a wonderful tip. And as she was talking about meditation, I was listening to a podcast from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And one of the comments that he made was that when we meditate 3 times a day, just for 10 minutes, and that's just being still and trying to focus on positive thoughts, isn't it? Meditation, or just try and quieten that negative chatter. They actually showed in studies that after 5 days, their immune system, so immunoglobulin A, had actually increased. So actually it helped their immune system by 50%.
That's massive.
It is huge, isn't it? So exactly as you're saying, the meditation, not only does it have an impact on our minds, but it also has an impact on our bodies, doesn't it, and our immune system, which obviously is quite topical right now.
Yeah, definitely. So, because I was just going to say, because I think as well, some people can feel like they're in this fight or flight. It's like, I have to keep going, and they've got this adrenaline going through them. But like you said, taking that time to just sit and close your eyes, switch off all your screens, all your social media, etc., makes a massive difference to your state and how you're feeling, and like you said, to your body as well.
Yeah. And when you do your meditations, do you have a notepad by you, or do you sometimes do that just to see if any thoughts come through? Because when we're still for long enough, then often we get some moments of inspiration, don't we?
Yeah. So there's 2 ways that I do it. So I've been very drawn over the last few days to just take myself into a field or to sit on my grass outside and placing my hands on the earth, just to ground myself and to give Mother Earth some healing and to ask for healing for the collective as well. But the other way, sometimes I get like, it feels like a bit of a tap on the head, and it's like spirit saying to me, you need to meditate. We've got a message for you. You need to sit down. So then I'll sit, and sometimes within two minutes or so, I've got a message in my mind. So I have a notepad, and I just start writing down whatever words are coming into my mind without analysing it. I think is really important as well. And without thinking, well, this doesn't make any sense. I just write it regardless of whether it makes any sense or not.
So whether there's someone out there who's meditated before or not, then they can definitely access this right now, can't they? And if it is just that they've been doing basic meditation, they can take it to the next level and take a pen and paper and just see what they get through.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, I've never used the app, but there's the app on your phone as well, Headspace, isn't there? Which again is really accessible. And if you're struggling to calm your mind and that negative chatter, then I would recommend listening to some guided meditations where someone talks you through a relaxation process. Because often in the very beginning, I remember when I was trying to teach myself to meditate when I was working for this retailer, and I remember throwing the book across the room because I was like, I cannot still my mind. I can't stop all this chatter inside. But using the guided meditations initially definitely helped to get my body and my mind into that state of relaxation.
And it's that they can be short, can't they? It doesn't have to be a really long meditation, does it? Some of them are minutes, aren't they? And then some of them are hours. So it's whatever people can find in their day, isn't it, I guess?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
What a great top tip. So meditation, top tip number 1. What else have we got?
Okay, so the grounding and protecting your energies that I spoke about earlier. So if you're watching the media at the minute or you're on social media, there's a lot of practical advice about, washing your hands, staying a certain distance, ordering your food. But we also need to think about our energy bodies as well. So around us, we'll have our aura, which is a collection of energy. And so one of the first tools that I learned in Reiki, like I said, which really helped, was about grounding and protecting your own energy. So especially if you're sort of quarantined or self-isolating with other people, you're going to be absorbing all their energies and their fears as well. So what I recommend is when you first wake up in the morning, putting your feet flat on the floor, then closing your eyes and imagining that you've got tree roots coming out from the base of your feet, going through the floor, going through the earth, and imagining like a big ball at the center of the earth. I normally say like an orange color. And these roots are heading towards the orange color, and then they plant themselves into this ball. Then imagine that orange light coming back through the roots, back through the trunks, up through your feet and your legs, literally all the way through your body, and creating an orange bubble around you. A bit like, like a Ready Brek glow. I don't know if you remember the Ready Brek adverts where there was like a little man with an orange glow around him. So that's a really simple idea to protect your energies from other people. If you're feeling like you need extra armor, so say you're on the front line at the minute, whether you're in the supermarkets or you're on the NHS or you're working in a hospital, you can also imagine like putting on like armor and becoming like a knight. Do you know what I mean? So you've got like your helmet on and just something a bit extra if you feel your energy is going to take a bit more of a battering. So that's a really good tip for, anyone can do it, even when you've got kids. So I've got 2 small children, and I can manage to do that whilst they're running around, shouting and whatever.
Playing.
Playing. And so it's a really good one to protect your own energy. And another thing that I use very regularly as well is either sage or Palo Santo sticks to cleanse not only my energy, but also the energies within the house and the home as well. Mm-hmm. So bless the poor kids. I'll get the sage out and they're like, Mummy's smudging again, quick. And they'll run away into different parts of the house. But it's really good. It's got antibacterial properties in it as well. But it's a really good way of just, again, getting rid of stuff you've picked up, even if you haven't actually seen anyone, the stuff that we'll pick up off social media, and all of a sudden we might be worrying about something that wasn't even in our sort of energy field to begin with. So,
and that is the big thing, isn't it, about social media, just in general. It's, we can get lost in it, can't we? And like you say, something that wasn't even on our minds before now becomes like quite a big thing. And if we sit with it and think about it for long enough, it can kind of snowball, can't it? So smudging is a really good thing to get rid of that.
And in talking about sort of like absorbing as well other people's stuff, a really good question that I learned I learned access bars, which is awesome. But a really good question that came from that is, if you're worrying about something that you've possibly read to do with the pandemic or what other people are doing, just sit there and just say, is this my worry or is it someone else's? Because generally you've picked it up from someone else. So like you said, you might not have been panicking about running out of toilet rolls until someone shared the story, and all of a sudden it's in your mind and you're like, is this my worry or is it someone else's? So that's
again, I'm not sure if that's an international problem, but it certainly is here for us here in the UK. Every time I pop to the supermarket to get my weekly shop, everyone's coming out with toilet rolls. I'm fighting over them before the shopkeepers have even put them on the shelves.
I know.
Yeah, crazy times.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So another great tip there. So we talk about energy fields and kind of cleaning our energy field. So smudging is one of them, protecting ourselves is another. Is there anything else? So we talked about briefly before this podcast, we talked about, letting go of things. Would that help with clearing the energy fields that no longer
Definitely,
serve us?
yeah. So this is a really good time, I feel, that whilst we're either self-isolating or quarantined or spending time by ourselves, really thinking about, again, what am I holding on to that just doesn't serve me, that I don't need to be holding on to anymore. So one of the other things that I started working with a couple of years ago was the moon cycles. And on a full moon, it's about letting go of stuff that no longer serves you. So writing a list. So if, for example, I don't know, if someone did you wrong 5 years ago and you're still holding a grudge against them, and every time you hear that person's name, it brings something up for you or it's irking you, then just think, moving forward, do I want to keep carrying this pain or this tragedy, whatever has happened in your past? If you don't want to take it forward, then basically writing is one of the best ways of getting it out of your energy field. And out of your mind and out of that space. And then whether it's you write a letter of forgiveness to a person who's wronged you, whether you want to forgive yourself for something you've done in the past, that you don't want to take forward. And then when you've done all your writing, just burning your list and letting it go just sends that message out to the universe that actually, I don't want to keep this stuff anymore. It's weighing me down. It's been going on for long enough. Let's just purge it. That's the word I keep getting at the minute for what we're going through is, we're purging.
It's a great word, isn't it? And it is so true. When we hold on to, like you say, if you just hear somebody's name and it instantly triggers that emotional, that thought or that memory, and then we hold that in our bodies, don't we? So instantly we might feel uptight or tense or angry or bitter or scared, whatever emotion that triggers up, and we're sending those signals to our bodies. So physically they're not helping us or emotionally or spiritually, are they?
No, and it's interesting because when I see a lot of clients, one of the main places that I can feel their pain or emotional pain is around the heart chakra. And it's like whether they haven't been allowed to grieve for someone who's passed, or whether they haven't got over a relationship breakup, or there's some anger or jealousy to do with the person. It's generally around the heart chakra. And it's only by sort of releasing it and letting it go that you can then open up your heart even more to allow and love in and being able to give it. And it's the same with the stomach area as well. So when we're not dealing with the emotional pain or the emotional stuff we've got going on, it does end up manifesting physically. So if you've got IBS or if you've got digestive issues or whatever, it can make you have stomach pains.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth sort of letting go of anything at this time that you're just like, I don't want to deal with that anymore.
So one of the things is they could write that down on a piece of paper, or they could maybe ask someone for distance healing, because obviously we're all self-isolating, and at some point, in the future, someone might be listening to this podcast and we won't be self-isolating. So they could, go for some Reiki, or you mentioned access bars. Would that help? I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about access bars?
So access bars, I came across it not long after my best friend had passed away, and I'd gone to a mind, body and soul fair, knowing again that I needed something, but I wasn't sure what. And there was one room that was empty, so I just said, what are you doing? And this guy said access bars. So I went in, he touched some points on my head, did my feet, went back to my head, and that was it. And I was just like, what was that? But then I went home and I set my first boundary, and I'd always been very much a people pleaser, a fixer, a saver. And I was always used to just saying, oh yeah, let's do that, and just agreeing with what was going on. But I set this boundary and I was like, that was powerful. Where did that come from? And then I remembered the access bars, and sometimes the therapies that you might have, or the treatments or the healing or whatever, it's not like having a massage. When you have a massage, you can feel it, it's physical, you've had a massage. But in terms of when you're having any healing or whatever alternative therapy's done, it can take a little while to move through you. So I went and learned access bars, and what I like about it is that rather than, having to go to a counsellor, for example, and sit there for 12 weeks rehashing over the same thing again and again and again, with access bars, you don't have to speak if you don't want to. And the way the creators describe it is that worst case, it feels like a gentle head massage, and best case, it can change your life, which I feel is it's such a bold statement, but I just feel like, it's really true, because there's just different things that it can change. So maybe like beliefs about money, or it can help with PTSD, it can help with autism, anxiety. There's just such a range of stuff. And I just feel like it gets to the root, of whatever's being caused.
And can that be accessed remotely as well as Reiki? Can that be distance healed, or is that in person with a practitioner?
No, so the access bars has to be done in person with a practitioner, whereas the Reiki can be done via distance.
So one for the future, if anyone's listening to this podcast during this self-isolating time, but if they're listening to it post-self-isolating, then they can go and get access bars treatment.
Yes.
And access bars, Reiki, I've experienced them both, and different things came to me. And like you say, I didn't really feel much from the access bars at the time, but the Reiki, I had a really bizarre experience. I was just lying there, and I was kind of semi-conscious, and it was actually you, Lindsay, that said, why don't you try Reiki? And I said, Reiki? I've never even heard of it. And I was going through a particularly rough time in my life. I don't know if you remember. And you said, try Reiki. So I thought, well, what have I got to lose? Lying down on a couch for an hour, relaxing, then there's nothing to lose. And I just remember not feeling unconscious, but not feeling conscious. I was in this semi-conscious state. And my friend was coming around that evening, and we were going out rock and roll dancing. And I just had this kind of message in my head that said, I'm sat outside your house. So anyway, when I kind of came round and, left the practitioner's room, I checked my phone, and there was a message on my phone that says, I'm sat outside your house. And she wasn't due for another 2 hours. And I thought, wow, this is really, really, really bizarre. And that was my first kind of experience, really, of opening myself up to Reiki and the spiritual world and different kind of realms. Because before that, I was an accountant, and everything was quite black and white for me. And I guess for anyone out there who's not tried access bars or Reiki and is considering it, then what advice would you give them?
So I would maybe try and find someone who either is recommended word of mouth. In terms of the distance healing, just have a look, check out their website, because I feel, I mentioned this because I was sort of speaking to some other therapists and healers, and I said, if we were selling sausages, it doesn't matter about the person, because the sausage is still a sausage, but the thing is, with a healer or a therapist, it's about, not so much stalking them, but, checking them out. Does that person feel like someone that you would feel comfortable with? Does it feel like someone that you could trust to just, because like you said, you're lying on, if you have it in person, you're lying there for 45 minutes to an hour, and there's going to be stuff that comes up that you're going to want to speak about. You might find that you're crying on the bed because you're releasing all these emotions. But I would just find someone that you think, actually, I feel comfortable with her. She seems to know what she's talking about, or he, or whatever. And that's the route that I want to go down.
Yeah, great piece of advice. And it is having that connection with that person, isn't it? Especially when it's definitely a service rather than, like you say, a product. Yeah,
definitely.
So if someone wanted to have or try distance healing now, so say for example Reiki, what do you think the benefits could be given the current environment and what we're going through? How would it help them right now?
So it would help them to feel calmer, for one. So normally I recommend with the distance healing that we agree a time where you can be sort of like in a calm environment, you can relax, you can lie down, you can sit up completely, whatever is up to you. And what it's going to do is it's going to sort of it'll make you feel calmer, less stressed, less anxious. You might feel things within certain parts of your body. You might feel heat in some places. You might see some visions. You might get some clarity. You might get some thoughts, about where you're at right now and maybe the reasons for it. So often when I'm sort of sending the healing as well, sometimes I do get messages from spirit for that person, or I get messages from their spirit guide, or it's just whoever wants to come in sort of comes in and joins me. But yeah, it's definitely, and when you're feeling calmer and you're in that state, like you said, between being sort of unconscious and subconscious, that's when your body is so relaxed that, again, your immune system can kick in and sort of build it up a little bit. So yeah, they're the main things, I think.
Wow. Oh gosh, Lindsay, I'm just thinking about that healing and how much that could affect somebody's life right now. And what a great way to kind of connect with someone on an energy basis, even if we can't connect on a physical basis, because right now, we've got to keep our distance and we're not even really supposed to be going outside the house. But I guess through the form of distance healing, for example, Reiki, we can actually connect with someone on an energy level. So that's actually quite exciting if we're all self-isolated, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. And it's even I very much connect with music as well. So one of the other tips I was going to give is, if you're in the house, play some great music that really affects you. Do you know what I mean? That lifts your vibration. And a friend of mine had sent me a piece of music which was partly orchestra and then partly sort of like this guy's vocals. And I just stood in my kitchen, closed my eyes and started dancing. And it was a bit like doing like a cross of like Tai Chi and Qigong. But I was like, I could feel just all the energy around me. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
And singing as well, even if you think, oh, I can't sing, put some music on, I'll sing. And again, I'll lift your vibration and just sort of like help your vibration just feel really high and on a different level.
Wow,
I've gone off on a tangent there.
No, it's another great tip. And a really useful one as well, because everyone's got access to music at home, haven't they? Even
exactly, yeah.
Whatever medium they get their music, most people have got access to music at home, or if they haven't, then they can just sing.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly, and laughter as well. Do you know what I mean? Watching comedies and switching off, all that sort of stuff. It's like every now and then, like sometimes, like if I'm scrolling through Facebook, if I find something that literally makes me laugh out loud, I think I need to share this, because we need more laughter. Do you know what I mean? And we need to be able to.
So do. I think you should bottle your laughter, Lindsay, or record it and sell it, because it's very infectious.
Oh, thank you. I might just record it, like as an audio.
Yeah. Why not? And just let people listen to it. It'll lift their spirits.
Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah, I'd hope so.
Are there any other tips we want to give people?
I think the only other one that comes to mind is gratitude as well. So at the end of the day, think about what can you be grateful for? What has gone well in the day? So even if, you've been in with the kids all day and you're pulling your hair out, have you got a roof over your head? Can you be grateful for that? Can you find little pockets of time that you've had fun with your kids, or you've laughed or whatever? And I think just saying thanks to upstairs, for what you do have, it will help as well.
Yeah, gratitude's massive, isn't it? And it does shift our immune systems as well. When we practice gratitude rather than feeling frustrated or anxious, it helps with our immune system. So that's a really, really good one at the minute. And I say to my clients, have something by your bed when you go to bed at night, just a notepad or something. And even if you can just think of 2 things that you're grateful for in that day, or things that you enjoyed, it just kind of, it helps you go to sleep on a positive note rather than
definitely worrying
about what's going on.
But all of the tools that I have mentioned are in my book. So I wrote a book.
Which is what I was going to come on to when you mentioned it. Amazing. Yeah.
So my book is called A Gentle Hug for the Soul, Providing Comfort and Reassurance in Times of Need. And it's funny because everything that I mentioned, the gratitude, the mindfulness, the spirit guides, the Reiki, all of those are in the book, and it's simple to read, easy to read. So
And yeah, I can't recommend it highly enough. I've read it myself, and what a wonderful book, and very proud of you, Lindsay. Lindsay and I go back many years, and aside from work kind of colleagues, we are best friends as well. And yeah, the book is amazing. If anybody is going through a challenging time, it does exactly what it says on the tin, a gentle hug for the soul. And yeah, I mean, what a better time to read it than now. So where can we access your book, Lindsay, if anybody wants to?
Yeah, so it's available on Amazon. So if you want to head to Amazon, you can get it there.
And is it Lindsay Coldrick that the book's written under? Yes.
Yeah, so the book's under my married name, Lindsay Coldrick.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So if anybody's looking for it, Gentle Hug for the Soul by Lindsay Coldrick.
Yes.
Awesome. And yeah, well, if we're all self-isolating, get a book to read.
Exactly.
Read some books. Let's learn.
I know.
Let's all self-develop.
Exactly. I've got loads of books at the minute where I'm like, I'm going to read that and I'm going to read that. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
And Lindsay, one of the things you mentioned earlier on was about the message that you're getting a lot of the minute is purging. Is there a parting comment you want to leave our listeners with, or would that be it?
No, so I feel as if, so I'm just asking upstairs to give me some guidance on this. I feel as if, so one of the messages that I keep saying on Instagram and being posted is about, when we go back to normal, okay? But we're not going to go back to normal. And we're not going to go back to the same way of being and living as we've been doing. So use this opportunity to really get in tune with who you are, what your values are, getting rid of stuff that no longer serves you, and doing an emotional and energy check-in with yourself, as well as doing all the practical stuff and looking after yourself physically, your food and your diet and the exercise. Start doing that work within yourself as well, because when we do come out the other side, it will be of huge benefit for not only you, but those around you as well.
What a great message, and thank you for sharing that with us.
You're
it's
welcome.
Wonderful, isn't it? It's a period of a change, and I think it's for us to embrace the positives. Definitely. Rather than be fearful as to what's coming.
Definitely,
it's going to be a positive change ultimately.
It is. It is.
Well, thank you very much, Lindsay. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on our show today. And just to wrap up, I am Lisa Victoria. I am your host for Alternative Health Tools. You can find me at lisavictoria.co.uk, or you can message into the show if you've got any questions for us. And if you like what you've heard today, then please share with your friends, and you can find us on Apple, Spotify and Google and anywhere else that you get your podcasts from. Thank you for listening and following us, and stay safe. Speak soon.